Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, and thank you for joining us once again, TheModenstersOfGaming. I'm KaijuK, continuing my coverage of my favorite Fakemon from fan-made games. Now this is the 5th attempt at doing this video. The first attempt had my computer crash, the second attempt had my computer have to reset due to an update. The third, I had a video I was watching start playing in the background in the middle of it, and I didn't want to get in any trouble with me watching some Team 4-star and playing in the background. The fourth time I screwed up my line so badly I had to restart again, so here we are at number 5. Oh, this is just the start of a great day. Now, last time we dealt with grass types, so now we're going to deal with something else. We're going to deal with the ground types. Ground types generally are a mixed breed. You can get slow-moving ones that are high attack power, you can get fast-moving ones that are high attack power, you can even get some really defensive ones. The biggest selling point to ground types is they are immune to electrical attacks and are actually strong against electric types, being the only weakness until the game brings out something like rubber types. That being said, some of my favorite ground type Pokemon are just really misunderstood Pokemon, and you get down to like Hippowdon, and a lot of people are like, oh, Hippowdon, he's not that good. I go, well, if you play him properly, he's a beast and he just can't be stopped. So, that being said, let's start this off again with our first Pokemon. This is from Pokemon Uranium, and this is Herolune, the Vigilant Pokemon. Actually, I think it's supposed to be Vigilante Pokemon. His Pokedex entry reads, it rises with the moon to do battle with its sworn nemesis, Villucard. It has a strong sense of justice and will protect those who cannot defend themselves. If you remember in our Dark types, Villucard was actually my number 1. This is actually his opponent, and he's my number 10 slot. The reason being, besides him just being goofy looking, his move pool is pretty good. It's just his stats are pretty bad. He gains access to moves Mold Breaker, Defiant, and Guts. Guts, of course, is the one I'll be using when I talk about his design. Now, statistically, he's not all that bad. Great health, good defense, great attack, but for a guy who's supposed to be taking on something like Villucard, having such low special defense and speed really doesn't do him any good. Not to mention he has a myriad of weaknesses, including flying, water, grass, psychic, ice, and fairy. So he has a lot of things to worry about. Because he's created using a Moonstone, of course, he also doesn't gain a lot through his level ups. But he does gain access to moves like Drain Punch and Bone Rush, and even Moonlight if you want to give some healing. His prior evolution, though, gives him access to moves like Bulldozer, Bulk Up, Body Slam, Close Combat, and Earthquake, all very powerful moves. Through Move Tutor, he even gains even more powerful moves. He learns all 3 of the Fangs and all 3 of the Elemental Punches as well. So, you get to choose which ones you want. He also gains access to Poison Fang and Poison Jab, so, he even has those. And you can teach him Gunk Shot if you want. And by breeding, you can teach him some good moves like Dig and Storm Throw. Now, his previous evolution is this little thing called Luna Pup over here. And then on the other side, you use a Moonstar and he becomes Herolune. The difference between the male and the females is very, very hard to notice, but if you look by the eyes, you'll notice that the females have little eyelashes. And the big difference between the shiny and the regular forms, I actually think the shiny form looks more like what it should be. The shiny form is a bit darker, hence the fact that it comes out at night. The cape seems a little more earthen. It's just the better of the two. Herolune appears to be based as a dog or a wolf and a superhero. Herolune's rivalry with Villucard is likely based on the common stereotype of cats and dogs not getting along, and his name is a combination of the word hero and the word Luna, another word for the word moon. Now, just because his stats aren't up to spice doesn't mean you can't use him to be a very powerful Pokemon. What I would do is give him Guts and then equip him with a Flame Orb, that way he gets the bonus from Guts. I would then teach him Drain Punch and Drill Rush for stab bonuses, Poison Jab for a quick strike at taking out some of those really annoying fairy types. You don't want them, and also pretty good strike against grass types. And Ice Punch to also take down grass types and flying types. They seem to be the main threat to Herolune. There's all the other types, but those seem to be the most commonly used ones. So that being said, in his ridiculous / her ridiculous goofy costume out of the way, let's move on to a bigger Pokemon. Whoop, yeah, bring it all to the top. This is Cocancer, the beach Pokemon. Doesn't he look grumpy? He's a grass ground type that has access to Sand, Veil, Chlorophyll, or Harvest. His Pokedex entry reads, Cocancer bury themselves in the sand and are indistinguishable from an ordinary palm tree. When prey walks by, they leap out with surprising speed and crush it with their massive claws. Only 50% of that last part can be believable. They could probably crush you due to how high their attack power is, but as far as surprising speed, I think Caterpie could probably outspeed one of them. Just joking. He does have access to some pretty good HP, some great attack, great defense, great special defense, weak special attack, and just about average speed. So that whole surprising speed thing doesn't make a lot of sense to me. However, this Pokemon is bulky. It can take quite a beating. It does have 4 weaknesses to be careful of: Flying, Bug, Fire, and that 4x weakness to Ice. But it is just such a strong and bulky Pokemon that it can take some good hits and just keep going. It does gain access to a lot of special attacks, which really doesn't do good with a special attack stat. Don't try to make it a special attack or you will fail. It can learn some cool moves like Shell Smash due to its already good defenses. You could use this a few times. Crab Hammer, that's a surprise hit for somebody who isn't ready for it. Wood Hammer, so you could just like Hammer Time, I guess you could do it. And even Solar Beam, like I said, not the best. He gains access to Leaf Blade from a prior evolution. And, of course, he gains access to all 3 of the Elemental Punches and Synthesis plus Knockoff. And, comically, he can't learn it via his move pool, but by breeding he can learn Crush Claw, even though in his Pokedex entry it states with a Crushing Claw. Come on! Someone just put it up there. There's lots of moves you could replace it with. Here, I'll help you guys out, okay? Hey, you see Water Gun? Trade that out for Crush Claw. You see Curse? Doesn't need it. How about Mega Drain? Get rid of that. Just throw Crush Claw up there. His first evolution is the cutest. It's a little coconut crab. Then it kind of looks like a pineapple crab. And then it goes back to a coconut tree with a crab underneath of it. I could actually see this working out really well because, like, if he dug himself underground, you'd probably think that maybe at best you'd see an Executor, until you look at the shiny version and realize that a blue leaf palm tree would probably be really easy to figure out. During the Halloween event, though, if you found one, you could find one that looked like a pumpkin. So, I mean, if you were, a Halloween-y, kind of like my cousin Necro is, this is probably the one you'd want. Down in the trivia here, it says, there appears to be 2 starfish resembling Staryu clinging onto Cocancer. And if you look closely, you can see that right there is a starfish that has a jewel right in the back, right in the middle of it, just like Staryu would, or Staryu, rather. His design is based off of a crab in a beach island, complete with palm tree, or his Halloween version, of course, is a crab in a pumpkin. And Cocancer's name comes from the words coconut and Cancer, a constellation that looks like a crab. Now, he's a beast, and he has a lot of interesting ways of fighting. He's really bulky, but his speed and his special attack are not helping you. Even through EV training, you're not going to get it high enough. What I would do is give him Harvest and access to a Citrus Berry. That way he gains some healing capabilities. I would also teach him Sunny Day, so that's just a constant. With how bulky he is and how high his health is, that little Citrus Berry can continuously keep him going. I would also teach him Leaf Blade and Earthquake for stab bonuses due to his high attack power. He's going to crush a lot of Pokemon. And then Stone Edge for taking down some of his weaknesses, and because a lot of people aren't going to expect that from him. Cocancer is actually a really cool Pokemon. I can't remember where you catch his original form, Kokoran, but I do remember you can get him fairly early. From here, we're going to go hit up a Delta Pokemon, and this is a Delta Pokemon really close to my heart. This is Delta Muck. It says the Sludge Pokemon, we're just going to call him the Sand Pokemon. Now, Muck is probably one of my favorite poison types, and Aloha form Muck definitely boosted that by making him even more powerful. This version of Muck is, of course, a pure ground type. He gains access to the abilities Sap Sipper and Regurgitation. Now, the problem is Regurgitation was never implemented in Pokemon Insurgence, so there's really no idea of what it does. But if I were to take a guess, I'd probably say that it probably works similar to like how Belch would work, where like if he ate a berry, he'd probably also damage the opponent somehow with it. If that was the way, then you could teach him Recycle and just have some fun with him. It says here, it prefers warm and humid habitats. In the summertime, the toxic substances in its body intensify, making Muck reek like putrid kitchen garbage, which is kind of sad because I believe that's actually the Pokedex entry of a regular Muck. This Delta Muck doesn't have any poison in him. Statistically, he's got some really good stats. Good HP, good attack, great special defense, and some pretty good defense. You could boost that with EV training. Some special attack and some low head speed, but that was always Muck's forte. As far as weaknesses go, he gains access to water, grass, and ice. However, seeing as Sap Sipper is the only ability he has that we can actually go by here, we can just say that he's got a weakness to water and ice. Well, statistically, he does have quite a grouping of attacks here, both special and physical. He gains Stockpile early on. He can gain Bulldoze. He can gain Earthquake. He can even gain Recover, which of course is a great move to teach just any Pokemon that can learn it. Unfortunately, due to the fact that he is a Delta Pokemon, he can't evolve. So unfortunately, he doesn't get anything evolution. But you could teach him Stealth Rock. There's Delta Grimer, and then there's Delta Muck. And you have his front and his shiny form, which you can't see, unfortunately, but it's just black sand, which is actually pretty cool looking. Now, with Delta Muck, I would teach him Sap Sipper, and I would give him access to the moves Earthquake and Drain, Earthquake for stab, Drain Punch for some healing, Stockpile to boost his already high defensive stats, Recover to make him as annoying as hell, and a Black Belt to boost Drain Punch. I would pretty much make him a wall. I would make it, 3 stockpiles, how's it going? And then I would just Earthquake and Drain Punch everything else, knowing that there's not many types out there that could take both hits. And once again, as Muck is one of my favorite poison types, and basically one of my favorite Pokemon types all in all, I have a feeling that he would be able to do a lot of fun. I'm just checking to make sure that the desert music is still playing in the background. It was the closest thing I could find to royalty-free ground music, so we're going to play that. Plus, lots of the ground types are strong in desert environments and found in them. Moving on, we have Charmbra, the Reed Snake Pokemon. Charmbra is actually another really cool-looking Pokemon that gets some really good stats. If you take a look at him, he kind of looks like he's like a flute or a rattle shaped. It says here that Charmbra passes air through holes on its body to create a melody that hypnotizes prey. The dazed targets are unable to escape its toxic fangs. It gains access to Synchronize and Shed Skin, which are 2 really good defensive abilities. I always go with Shed Skin personally for that chance of just getting rid of all status effects that are currently affecting you. I know a lot of people aren't on the same page, but it's just, hey, do you want to be Toxic, or do you want a 1 in 3 chance of losing Toxic without having to use something like Rest? Now, statistically, he's not the best. Okay, he's probably an early on Pokemon, but I mean, he's got good stats everywhere but special attack and speed. I'm noticing the first couple of Pokemon that are on this list have that flaw. His weaknesses are to ground types, surprisingly, water, psychic, and ice. So you do have a pretty mixed bag, but you have no 4X weaknesses. And you can gain access to some powerful moves like Synchronize, which is a psychic type attack that allows you to do damage to opponents that are the same type as you. Now, being as you're a poison ground type, psychic type damage could be pretty useful. You can learn Nasty Plot. His special attack isn't that low, so I mean, you could probably make him into a special attacker with 1 or 2 Nasty Plots. But he does gain access to some pretty cool moves. The classic quotation mark snake moves, which are Poison Fang, Glare, Stockpile, Spit Up, and Swallow. Coil as well. But then he can learn moves like Hyper Voice and Ring Out and Earthquake and Dragon Dance. And these are all moves that you just don't expect to just be on any Pokemon, especially one with stats like his. So you can really boost his stats to make him a powerful Pokemon. He also gains access to some other really cool moves. He can learn Aqua Tail, which is awesome. He can learn Iron Tail, he can learn Hyper Voice, he can learn Outrage, he can learn Recycle. So he's got a lot of options going for him as far as the move tutor. And by breeding, he gains access to moves like Confuse Ray, Fire Fang, Poison Jab, Poison Tail. And his unevolved form looks he's like it's coiled up into a basket with a basket head on it. Then it evolves into Charmbra. So Cobra Sect to Charmbra. Charmbra is based on a cobra as well as a punji, the instrument which is traditionally used to charm snakes. So yes, he does look like a flute. And his name is a combination of charm and cobra, which is quite cool and everything like that. I want to say that I'm surprised that with the word charm in its name, though, it doesn't learn the move Attract. Not that I would use it. So like I said before, ground poison type, I would teach him Shed Skin. I would give him Poison Fang for the chance to Toxic my opponent while damaging them, and Earthquake for stab coverage. I would also give Sucker Punch, because I always liked Sucker Punch. It never worked for me, but I'm sure if it did, it would be the coolest move ever. Coil to boost its attack, defense, and accuracy. and then leftovers to give it a little bit of staying power. Its combination also leaves very few Pokemon immune to it altogether. You throw Steel type out, he's going to hit it with Earthquake, and that's the only thing that could be basically immune to the poison. If you bring out a Flying type, he can still poison it. Skarmory, I guess, would be the one you'd be most worried about. So, Pokemon stage, bringing up the next one, we're going to bring up Terrorcotta, or Terrorcotta, the Great Root Pokemon. Terrorcotta is a ground type with the abilities Weak Armor and Water Absorb. Terrorcotta is too huge for standard containers. In order to not have their houses carried away, locals make giant pots for it to inhabit instead. So this Pokemon actually lives around people, and so they don't get destroyed, they have to build big pots for it. So that's kind of a creepy looking. Just looking at it, it's a pretty threatening looking Pokemon. Statistically, it's a heavy, bulky Pokemon as well. I don't know why I like grass types or ground types that are bulky. I just do. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's why I prefer things like Hippowdon over things like Diglett. Good HP, good attack, good defense, great special defense, and kind of sucking in the special attack and speed department again. His weaknesses are to Flying, Bug, Fire, and a 4x to Ice. And his move pool isn't actually all that bad, with moves like Power Whip and Earthquake, Needle Arm, Ingrain, Mudslide, which is an ability that lowers your opponent's evasion. Through the move tutor, though, he can learn moves like Avalanche, which is a surprise hit, Recycle, which could get him back berries, Stealth Rock, and Synthesis for more staying power. Plus, he could use Stealth Rock in combination with already being able to learn Spikes to be able to put a lot of field coverage out for your opponents. And then through breeding, he can also learn Toxic Spikes. So if you wanted to, you could really make this guy really annoying by like bulking up his attack, his defense, his special defense, and his health, and then teaching him Spikes, Toxic Spikes, and Stealth Rock. Maybe give him something like Ingrain and some leftovers, and just have him just blow out the field and just really destroy opponents when they switch in, unless of course somebody uses Whirlwind or Defog. He can also learn Bite through prior evolution. He starts off as Poddle, then becomes Trichotha, and then Terrorcotta. And Terrorcotta is based on a potted plant, specifically a potted cactus, and his name is a combination of the word terror and terracotta. That being said, this bulky Pokemon I would probably start by using the Ground Absorb, and then teaching it Needle Arm and Earthquake for stab coverage, Crunch for some surprise dark damage, or maybe throw Toxic Spikes in there, and then Ingrain, and then give it leftovers. It's a bulky Pokemon. It can take some damage. Its weaknesses are pretty bad, though, so you got to be careful with those. But overall, its design is just the coolest, too. It looks like something you'd see out of a B-rated horror movie, and if you know anything about me, I like my B-rated horror movies. So now we're going to come up with the most interesting Pokemon, in my opinion, in this group. This is Kairoglyph. Now, Kairoglyph is the Enigma Pokemon. As you can see, it looks like a sphinx with a snake tail with an eye in it. It says here that Kairoglyph values secrets and riddles above all else. The eye on its tail can reveal the innermost secrets of both humans and Pokemon. Its abilities are Sandstream or Conundrum. Now, for all expense purposes, I'm going to explain this Pokemon and what makes it so awesome real quick. Now, I've run into Pokemon that seem to specialize in using status effects, Pokemon that are specialized in poison, or burning, or freezing, or paralyzing. Kairoglyph here actually specializes in confusing your opponent. With Conundrum, there's a 30% chance that contact moves will actually leave your opponent confused. That's just awesome! That is so cool! Hey, you hit me, now you're just confused. To make that even better, though, it has its own personal special ability, a psychic move called Perplex. Now, Perplex is a base power 65, but if the opponent is confused, its base power is doubled, bringing it up to 130. That's pretty strong right there. Kairoglyph also has some pretty good stats. I wish its speed was a little higher, but it's got great attack, good defense, good special attack, pretty good attack and special defense, and lowish speed. It also has a crud ton of weaknesses: Bug, Ghost, Water, Grass, Ice, and Dark. That being said, though, it also gains access to a lot of really cool moves, and moves that could help you out. Miracle Eye, Glare, Hypnosis, Psywave. You can even teach him Dream Eater, so you could do a Hypnosis Dream Eater combo. He can also learn the flying move Tempest. which is a move that I use. I would use in case I didn't want to use a ground-type move, which I have up in my list here. He can also learn Size Shock, Heal Block, Perish Song, and access to a lot of other moves, including Ancient Power. He can learn Heat Wave, which could really surprise an opponent, Ominous Wind, Pain Split for some healing, Wonder Room, Confuse Ray, Hex, which could also be pretty useful, I guess, if you want to throw in something like Will-O-Wisp on him. His unevolved form is Carry Up before he becomes Kairoglyph. They're based off of the Egyptian Jackal and the mythical Sphinx, and its name is a combination of the corruption of Cairo, which is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Cairo would be the capital of Egypt, and Hieroglyph, which of course is the Egyptian original language. He's just a cool-looking Pokemon altogether. He's got a lot going for him. Stats could be a little higher. I think he could probably use another evolution just to make him a little bulkier. But that being said, teach him Conundrum, so he's got a 30% chance of confusing his opponents. Perplex for Stab Psychic and the benefit of cheating over the confusions. Charge Beam for boosting his attack and giving him a little bit of damage against electric types. Then we get to the part where you can choose. You can choose either Earth Power or Tempest. Earth Power for stab, Tempest for clearing effects, and also for dealing with a lot of his weaknesses. And I teach him Confuse Ray for even more chances to confuse. That combined with Perplex can really crush an opponent. Give him a Shell Bell for healing, and you have one very difficult Pokemon to hurt. I guess you could always do something like Confuse and then teach it Attract, and then probably teach it Thunder Wave. So, I mean, Attract, Thunder Wave, its own confusion ability. I mean, there's lots of ways you can play Kairoglyph, but he's just a really cool Pokemon, and probably the most interesting one on this list all in all, just because of the number of special capabilities it gets, and it's the first Pokemon I've ever run into that is specializing in just confusion-based attacking. That being said, we're going to move on to Skurrow, the mole lizard Pokemon. Now, he's a blind little guy, but it states that Skurrow digs itself underground to find shelter from desert heat in a series of tunnels. It hisses to alert other Skurrows of danger. That danger is approaching. So it's a Pokemon that lives in a populated area where there's probably a lot of them. Its abilities are Dry Skin or Sand Rush. Both are good, but I prefer Dry Skin just to give me that strength against water types. Statistically, he's pretty average everywhere except for special attack. Having attack being his highest stat, followed by his speed, then his HP, his defense, and then special attack. His weaknesses are water, grass, and ice, but if you give him Dry Skin, it's only grass and ice. His move pool isn't too bad. He gains access to a lot of powerful direct attacking moves. He can learn Sandstorm. There's one. Also, question, does anyone else figure out why Sandstorm is a rock type instead of a ground type? Seeing as a lot of ground types are the ones that benefit from it most. Yeah, anyways, I'm thinking too hard. It gains access to moves like Bulldoze. It can learn Acupressure. It can learn Iron Head, Earthquake. It can also learn Coil and Dragon Tail. Through the move tutor down here, it can learn Earth Power and Mega Punch. You can learn Knockoff, which could really just surprise your opponent. Zen Headbutt, Super Fang, if you want to do that even more so. You can also gain access to Curse Claw. It can learn access to Night Slash. It can learn access to Ring Out. As you can see, it has no evolutionary form. Down here in the trivia, it says, for a long time, Skurrow was known as Skink because of its obscurity and the wordiness of the creature it's based on. Skurrow was never actually meant to be a true skink, though. Skurrow went from having mediocre approval to one of the highest ratings from the new render just to change the pose and make it slightly skinnier. Skurrow is based off the Mexican mole lizard, a creature that resembles a worm with arms, and its name is a combination of skink, scurry, and burrow. If we click right here, real quick, it's going to bring us to this page. And this is where Skurrow's original design started. Now, as you can see by getting it a little bigger, there we go. Skurrow was originally looked like something out of Alien. He's a chest burster. And then he's like, oh, where are my glasses? He's kind of fat, kind of thick. He gets a little bigger here. And then his finalization, as you can see, he just becomes, a little bit more forward thinking. And it does kind of look like he has an iron head. I actually thought he might have been a ground steel type at first because of the iron plate on his face. So, that being said, what makes Skurrow so great? Well, First off, teach him Dry Skin. Not only is this great, but a lot of Pokemon nowadays try to use Drizzle, which will also help him heal. Some Earthquake for some stat bonus, then teaching him Iron Head and Zen Headbutt for some coverage and some sweet damage, and then teaching it Coil to boost its stats even greater, and a Shell Bell for healing. He's a pretty cute looking Pokemon, but at the same time you can feel that he'd be very dangerous. He's also another Pokemon that it feels that if he was to evolve, he'd probably evolve into like a ground poison type. Maybe he'd be like kind of like a Gila Monster type Pokemon or something like that. Not Gila Monster type, but like the appearance of a Gila Monster. Duh. So like I said, I mean he's cute, but he also seems very tough at the same time. Like a little pincer, like a pocket pincer. You know how cute they are, but how vicious they try to be. Moving on, we have another Pokemon. I seem to have a fixation on hummingbirds and one other type, and that would be Elephants. This is Elestomp from Pokemon Solar Light and Lunar Dark. He is a ground type with access to Thick Fat and Immunity. He has no Pokedex entry. But as you can imagine, just by looking at him, he probably walks in the mud a lot. Statistically, he's also not the best, with his stats looking like a falling cell phone tower, with it being HP as his highest, attack and defense as his second highest, special attack as his third, with special defense and speed sorely lacking. So you don't really want to give him anything that's going to make him even slower. You'd probably want to EV train him to boost those lower stats. Now he gains weaknesses to water types, grass types, and ice types. However, if you teach him Thick Fat, the ice type weakness goes away. He gains access to a large series of moves, including being able to use some water attacks, which are really surprising. He gains Rollout, much like... oh, man, I've just completely lost my train of thought. It was derailed, folks. Donphan, there it is. He also has access to the moves Slam and Bulldoze, Mud Bomb, Earthquake. So, I mean, he's got lots of ways to fight. I wish he was a bit bulkier, but it's his appearance and his combination of moves. Like, he can learn Seed Bomb. He can learn Gunk Shot. He can learn Aqua Tail, even though he doesn't have much of a tail. He can learn Zen Headbutt, Superpower, Sucker Punch, Outrage. I mean, he can gain just about a move from every typing in the game. So he has a lot of movability. A lot of abilities where he could be packing anything. Obviously, though, how you would design him is you would start off by giving him something like Thick Fat, which I would do personally, just to get rid of one of his weaknesses, and then teach him Earthquake for that strong stab bonus. He does have a good attack, so we can work from there. I would also like to teach him Wild Charge for just a little bit of surprise, Muddy Water for a chance to lower stats, Rollout for multiple damage, and the bonus from the Shell Bell, which heals constant. There's his picture. Unfortunately, down here he has nothing in trivia or name origin or anything. But if I were going to guess, I'd guess his name was a combination of the word elephant and the word stomp. He is the big ear Pokemon. So yeah, I mean, you could teach him a lot of different moves for a lot of different coverages, and your opponent just wouldn't know what to be ready for. So that kind of gives him the access of being a Swiss Army knife on your team. Next up is the Pokemon that was tied for first place, but I had to put him back just because he didn't have enough. And that is... oh man, I did it again. That is Natoron, the Tectonic Pokemon. He looks like a damn Triceratops. It's awesome. He also looks like he should be Ground Steel. Once again, that's just my thought. He gains access to the abilities Rock Head, Sand Force, and Mold Breaker, two of which are really powerful. Sand Force is okay, but Mold Breaker to be able to go through opponents' abilities, and Rock Head to stop abilities that cause recoil damage from hurting you are just too good to pass up. His Pokedex entry reads, according to many ancient tales, Natoron are creators of tectonic plates. What is known for sure, though, is they can destroy towns by making earth under them tremble. So, don't want to get near this guy. However, the ironic part is, they're very tiny. They're only 1.7 meters tall, so they're not a really big Pokemon. They also only weigh 204 kilograms compared to some of the other Pokemon that can weigh thousands of kilograms. So, I mean, he's not that big. Statistically, though, he's kind of like our previous Pokemon Elestomp, only with slightly better stats. Once again, specializing in HP, attack, and defense, while his special attacks, special defense, and speed are lacking. He also has access to the same weakness pool, being water, grass, and ice. However, his move pool, on the other hand, is very, very powerful, learning moves like Spiky Shield for some defense. He can also learn Bulldoze. He can learn Rototiller if you want to use him in a tag battle with a grass type. Rock Slide, Fissure, Earthquake, and even Head Smash. So you can see why Rock Head would be important. You can also teach him Quicksand if you want. That's a move that I would throw on instead of the Spiky Shield, which I'll explain later. You can also learn the moves like Rollout, Superpower, Zen Headbutt. So, I mean, Iron Defense, Iron Head, but he really has no way of boosting those last 3 stats, so you gotta EV train them. Now, his appearance, he starts off as like a little lizard with like a frill on the top of his head. Then he becomes, you know, I don't know, looks like kind of like a Protoceratops with a little horn on his nose, and finally into a Triceratops. Once again, there's nothing down in origin or in languages. So, let's see here. Natoron. Let's see, Natoron. Well, Natoron could be like nature and, I don't know, Ron. I can't really think about what it would be right now. Although it is the fully evolved form of Tauron, so it could actually be a combination of the word nature and its original form being Tauron. That could work too, I guess. I would teach him Rock Head and give him the moves Earthquake for stab bonus, Head Smash to gain advantage of Rock Head and have a really powerful attack, Flamethrower for surprise damage. I mean, his special attack isn't that high, but a quick Flamethrower could surprise somebody. And then Spiky Shield to keep himself safe and for a chance of lowering his opponent's stats. Throw a Shell Bell on there to give him some extra healing when he's doing moves like Head Smash and Earthquake, and he can survive quite a few rounds. Now, coming to the end of this, we have the Pokemon that really doesn't need any explanation. He is the groundwater type, and of course, I love me some groundwater types. Escargot was one of them. Well, this is Escartress. Escartress, which is the Fortress Pokemon. Its Pokedex entry reads, its shell has hardened to a nearly unbreakable fortress. It shoots water from the turrets on its back. Now, I'm guessing these 2 little mini castles must be the turrets. That's just my guess. It gains access to Shell Armor, Sand Veil, and Sand Stream, so you got a lot of movability with it. I prefer Shell Armor just to keep the crits from hitting me. Now, statistically, it's got great health. It's got good special defense and regular defense. There's some EV training for you right there. Of course, it's slow, but it's got great special attack and pretty poor attack. I mean, it's about average. It's got 1 weakness with a 4x weakness to grass types. Move-wise, though, it gains access to the standard water, ground-type moves. I mean, Quagsire learns these too. You can learn, like, Muddy Water, which is great for lowering your opponent's accuracy. Earthquake or Earth Power, depending on your choice. Recover. It can learn Rain Dance. Even Magnitude, which, if it hits hard enough, Magnitude can actually hit harder than Earthquake. It just never seems to do that for me. I rarely get, like, a Magnitude 10. Most of the time I'm getting like Magnitude 4. It can also learn Icy Wind, it can learn Earth Power, Iron Defense, Gastric Acid. It can learn Brine, which could be really powerful for it, due to its already high HP. It can learn Sludge, Stockpile. It can even learn Stealth Rock, or even Shell Smash. I don't know why you'd use Shell Smash, but you can. Even its evolutionary forms start off different. Like, it starts off as this cute little cast snail. Then it becomes kind of a weird-looking yet still cute and regal Sablu before becoming this really regal yet defensive Escartress. And its original form looks like it's kind of made out of a canyon, and its secondary form, or shiny, kind of looks like it's made out of actually like a sand or a sand castle. And its name is based off, its design is based off of a sea snail and a sand castle, and its name is a portmanteau of escargot, French for snail, and fortress. Now, he could be a really bulky Pokemon. I mean, I've had one before. You'll see it later on in my Let's Play when I finally catch one and actually build it up to level 45. But it can take a load of damage. I start off with Shell Armor, teaching it Muddy Water and Earth Power for its stab bonuses and a chance to lower accuracy. Ice Beam to take care of those pesky grass types. Recover to keep its HP kind of up there. And even Leftovers to keep it even higher up there. This regal Pokemon carries its own castle with it and can really harm you. Unless, of course, you are packing a grass type, in which case you can just smack this Pokemon down. Whew! And with that, folks, after 5 attempts, this has taken me well over an hour to actually get done, so I'm kind of out of breath here if you can't hear from the graggly sound of my voice. So, I'm going to leave it with that. This is another one of my fine artworks. I didn't know what to do with it for ground type, so I just kind of threw it like it was like a sandstorm. So, folks, until next time, I thank you for joining us, and from all the other Modensters, we say thank you. Please, put down in the bottom, if you have any favorite Fakemon or anything you want us to do a Let's Play on, or anything. Just talk to us, folks. We don't get a lot of people. We get a lot of people telling us we're doing a good job. We don't get a lot of people telling us if there's anything that can improve on us, other than me getting a better computer and better editing software. I know that part already. So until next time, folks, I'm KaijuK. Thank you for joining us. Peace out. Have a good day. Bye-bye.